Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning. I just wanted to hop on here this morning and speak on this week's revelation of pivoting. The power of pivoting. The power of pivoting. And so it has been a trying week, but it has been a glorious week. It has been a trying week, and God is getting the glory out of this week. God is getting the glory out of my life. God is getting the glory out of my voice, out of my mouth, out of my tongue. I thank Him for the ability to be able to speak, to use my voice to declare and to decree a thing so that it can be established, to speak and to encourage and to release that word, release the salt into the earth that may season the hearts, that may draw the hearts to Him, that they may taste, that they may see of who He is. And so I just wanted to thank Him on this morning before I get started, because He is the one that has been sustaining me. He is the one that has been keeping me. He is the one that has been preserving me. And I just want to thank Him. And so I'm going to jump right into it this morning. My first point is having the ability to alternate between inputs. Alternating between inputs. A lot of what we experience in life has an effect on us, and that is what I consider to be input. The things that we experience on a daily basis, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that we experience is an input, and it has to go somewhere. It has to. We got to do something with it. We just can't ignore it. We can't avoid it. It has to be confronted. It has to be dealt with. And being able to alternate between those input gives us strength and mobility. It gives us the power to pivot and to shift as necessary. And so an example of this is having a regimen. Let's see. Yeah. So having a health regimen, and I'm doing this maybe 4 to 5 times a week. Well, input is people around me are sick, and so I end up getting sick. And lo and behold, it affects your body. You already know this. It affects your body. It affects your mind, your emotions, how you feel. Everything is affected when you're sick. And so making up in my mind that this is not going to derail me, this is not going to stop me, this is not going to stop my consistency, this is not going to stop what I have been doing. This has become a pattern for me. This has become a habit for me. This has become a healthy habit that I want to continue. And so instead of letting it die off, I'm going to do what I can. I'm not going to push myself as hard as I would if I were not sick. But I'm going to do what I can until I get better. And so lo and behold, I did just that. And believe it or not, the exercise opened up my air passageways, opened up it got my blood flowing, and it allowed the ventricles in my air passageways in my body to open up so that I could breathe. I felt better. It's just a unexplainable way that God created the human body and how he made us and designed us and created us in such this unique way to heal ourselves. It's almost like it was a healing measure for me, or a healing metric for me. And so that's just one example of taking an input that is negative and alternating it into a positive, shifting my mindset, because I understand my why. My why is to be healthy. My why is to take care of this temple that God entrusted to me. My why is to bring God glory in my body and my soul. So that means it has to come into alignment. It means that my body, my mind, my will, my emotions, what I desire has to come into alignment with what God desires for me at this point in my life. And so alternating in between those inputs and then an influx of positive. And so I get positively affirmed. And I take that positive affirmation, those positive words, and I use it in a positive way. I don't use it to lift myself up. I use it to rekindle the fire and the passion for him, for his kingdom, for his righteousness. I use it for a different purpose, a purpose outside of myself. That is another way of alternating in between inputs. Alternating between a negative input and alternating between a positive input. Either way, it leads me into my second point. As I'm alternating between these inputs, I'm keeping momentum. My second point, keeping momentum. And I'm keeping up the momentum by continuing to allow my faith to be sharpened, to allow my faith to be tested, to allow my faith to be strengthened. Allowing the situations and the experiences that I face, allowing the word to work in me. A good example of this is what happened the other day. So a good example of this is I had an experience where my faith was tested, and I didn't know how and where my source was going to come from. I had expended everything that I had. Nothing was left. And out of everything that I expended, I allowed God to speak to me. I left my ears open. I kept my ears open to Holy Spirit. I allowed him to speak into me. And the words that he said to me was, what can you add? What can you add to this by worrying? What can you add? And when I thought about the question that he asked me, it shifted something in me. And again, the power to pivot. I could have stayed where I was and allowed the thoughts that entered my mind, those inputs, to change and shift my faith, to change and shift the way that I thought in that moment. But I chose to hear. I chose to have ears to hear, believing without seeing. I chose to take him at his word. He has plans to prosper me and not to harm me. He has plans of hope and a good future. So, because I know this, and because I know I can't add anything by worrying, I decided to trust him. And it hurt. It hurt because I didn't know. I couldn't control it. I couldn't put my hands on it. I couldn't figure it out in my mind, in my own will, in my own way. And letting loose and letting go control was the greatest power that I ever seen in my life. I never seen anything like it. Humbling myself, opening up my mouth, and declaring his goodness despite what I was in, despite how I felt, despite what it looked like. Opening up my mouth and declaring his goodness, declaring his glory. Gave him the power to do what only he could do. And he surpassed what I thought I needed. He surpassed my understanding. He surpassed what I needed. He gave me more than enough to meet the need and to do more and to give freely as he gave to me to give. And that is the power to pivot. That is the power in pivoting and shifting and keeping up that momentum. And keeping up that momentum is remaining in faith, is allowing my faith to be tried, is allowing my faith to be tested, and remaining consistent, and remaining diligent, and remaining steadfast, and remaining immovable, even when I feel like I can't do anymore, even when I feel like all my strength is gone. Just keeping in the press, holding, clinging to him, clinging to his word, clinging to his promises, knowing that he never left me, that he never forsake me, that he never would leave me ever. And that leads me into my third point. My third point is, after I have kept the momentum, I'm now taking what has been input, what I have taken in, whether it be negative or positive, and I'm now discerning it. If it's positive, if it's edifying, I embrace it and I cling to it. If it's negative, then I reject it. I reject it and I abstain from it. I flee from it. And I cling to him. I still see it. I still feel it. But I still cling, and I still cling to him. I still cling to him. My heart clings to him. My mind clings to him. My emotions cling to him. My will clings to him. My soul clings to him. My spirit is connected to him. And no matter how much it hurts, no matter how painful it feels, I still hold on. I still remain in faith. And I didn't even know I was doing it. I thought that my faith had waned, and it didn't, because when I opened up my mouth to speak in this last step of discerning inputs, I was able to hear faith. Faith that had been acclimated. Faith that had been built up. Faith that had been erected. Faith that has been built on this foundation, this stable foundation, this secure foundation. A foundation of stability and security that I have never known. That I have never known. And it gave me a power and a strength to go back into the first step and redo it. And I'm in this process. I'm in this process. And so for my first point, alternating between inputs, whether it be positive or negative. My second point, keeping up the momentum through diligence and faith. My third point, discerning the input, rejecting the negative, accepting the positive. And that is the gist of today's video. This, like I said, this has been the power to pivot, has literally opened my eyes to another side of God that I have never seen. It has opened my eyes to see him like I have never seen him before. To a love that's pure, that's untainted, unblemished, uncompromising, unchanging, steadfast. A love that's consistent. A love that I'm no longer running from. I used to run from his love, but I'm no longer running from it, because I know when I get to this point, I gotta press in. Right here, I gotta press in. I gotta press in, and I'm gonna continue to press in, and I'm gonna continue to alternate between the inputs. I'm gonna continue to keep the momentum. I'm gonna continue to exert action over the inputs that I'm receiving, so that I can pivot effectively, so that I can pivot in faith, so that I can alternate between the sling and the sword and the shield, whatever it is that he calls me to do in that moment, because I keep my ears open to his spirit, because I keep my ears open to hear him. And so I encourage you on this morning, as I have been encouraged, as I have been uplifted, to remain steadfast no matter what you face, no matter what you feel, even if it don't feel good, even if it's painful. Cling to him. Stay fast in him. Keep your stance in him. Keep your composure in him. Remain immovable in him. Keep your mind on him. Set your affections on him, and let him lead you. Let him lead the way. Let him lead the way. And in your heart, let your heart be bent towards him. Let your heart be bent towards him. Let your heart know. Let your heart, give it to me, Holy Spirit. Let your heart be submitted to him, yielded to him. Because in that moment, he's able to do things that cannot be perceived through the mind, that cannot be understood through the mind. You won't even understand it, but it's done. But you know that it's him, and you know that it's God, because nobody can do the things that he's done in this past week except for him. Nobody. He and he alone is God. And I love him. And I will forever love him. And I will forever lean into him. And my soul is forever indebted to him. I forever belong to him. I am his beloved. I am Shamariah, and I am guarded by God. I am preserved by God. I am protected by God. He is my strength, my fortress, my stronghold, my strong tower. And I encourage the same for you. And I pray that he strengthens you in the inner man, in the inward parts, for the things that you may face, for the things that you may be facing even now, that you are strengthened beyond what you understand, beyond what you know, that you are strengthened in your inner man, in your spirit you are strengthened, that he makes you whole, that he makes you complete, as patience is having her perfect work in you. And so that is the gist of today's video. Be encouraged, be uplifted, be edified, and most of all, be beautiful.